Hello everyone, and welcome to a special video version of the podcast, because as you can see, I've got my guests in person. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Certainly, I'm Stuart Ashen, also known as Ashens, a YouTube man.
I'm a fellow YouTube man. My name is Oliver Harper.
And we have all come here together today to talk about a very specific topic that's very near and dear to our hearts. Namely, the worst films that we have ever gone to see in the cinema. Now, just to clear things up, this isn't the worst experiences we've ever had in a cinema. I mean, mine personally would be Bewitched for various different reasons, besides the fact that film's shit. I mean, literally, the worst movies we have ever gone to see.
Yes.
So, I think we have all picked about 5 or so of our very worst experiences, and showing the true professionals that we are, I'm not sure who's going first. So who wants to dive in with their number 5?
Let's start with Oliver and go across.
Okay, well, as I said, we've got about 5 titles. I think the earliest one I had was probably the 1990s, where it was Spawn.
Ooh.
Now, because as we all know, superhero movies were kind of quite sporadic in that time. You always got, like, you had Batman every couple of years, but in between that we had a few stinkers.
That was 97, 98.
It was 97. So Spawn had, the comics already just kicked off, weren't very popular at the time, and everyone ran in to see Spawn based on the trailers. At the time, CGI was becoming really popular.
Yes, it was very early.
It was now this kind of tool that was affordable, and Spawn had it all over the place.
Yes.
The CGI was just absolutely appalling. And then, because 97, you also had like Starship Troopers out, which had this amazing, incredible CGI, and Spawn had Poundland sort of version of it.
Yeah, it looked like it was done on the Amiga.
It was Spawn had this kind of really surge in popularity really quickly. Then it sort of dropped heavily a couple of years later. But the experience itself, we went in with like a friend of mine, and he brought along these 2 girls who we didn't really know. And they were just sat there, very, very annoyed throughout the entire thing. And my friend was all into sort of action and violence and stuff, so he was dead set on enjoying it. But he came out, he was just so gutted. Because it's a 90-minute movie. It whips along quite quickly. And the only highlight for me was, obviously, Michael J. White is a great actor in anything, really. But Nicole Williamson, because I just reviewed Excalibur, and he's amazing.
That was his
in
last film,
Excalibur,
wasn't it?
and he's great in Spawn. He steals the film really by playing this kind of mentor to Spawn. But it was
Martin Sheen's in it as well.
Yeah,
I don't even remember Martin Sheen being in it. My God.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a weird one, whole Spawn thing. I mean, I've been asked to review it so many times, but it's like I can't bring myself to sort of sit there.
You're probably going to have to. They're remaking it right now, aren't they?
Yeah. I'll probably come back saying, I'll review it in a couple of years later and go, oh, it's not that bad. And I'll think, oh, wait a minute, I've said it's terrible. But yeah, Spawn was kind of the ones where, because I always knew going in that I always try and read reviews when I was younger. Sort of, there wasn't. If you weren't reading Empire, you'd either be reading Starburst, something like that in the UK. If you're in America, you'd probably reading Starlog or something like that. But Spawn, I didn't read anything about it. I went straight into it. And usually at that time, I had made an effort to sort of check things out. Usually through word of mouth sometimes, but Spawn had no word of mouth. He just kind of went in cold. He had no internet in 97, really. So he just went in blind, and it was a stinker.
Yeah.
It really was. I saw it at the cinema too, and the points that knocked me out, because John Leguizamo is quite good fun in it. Quite nice makeup, but then, as you say, the CGI. And it was when the Malabolgia, the big satanic thing, comes up, and it's like little Jimmy's first rendering project, and it's just and crap fire and
and the cape as well was all CGI
Yeah,
cape
all
everywhere.
CGI
And it just looked,
cape.
come on, if that was a real fabric, made it that long, it would look incredible.
It was taking them to Doctor Strange to get it right.
The thing about Spawn, I don't think I've actually ever seen Spawn. I've seen the trailer enough times, but I'm surprised that 1997 didn't kill the superhero movie entirely. When you think about Batman and Robin, Steel, and Spawn were all out in that same year.
It was the year of box office bombs, really. 97 was, and sort of going into 98. But there was a few, great movies, because 97 for me was always just these disastrous Warner Brothers movies. I kind of always saw, like Wild Wild West as well.
Yeah, that was 99.
Man.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. I remember being annoyed when Wild Wild West came out because I was too young to see it, but they'd heavily promoted it with a Burger King kids tie-in.
Really?
Yeah.
God. You were spared. You were spared.
The other thing that doesn't help Spawn is that the version that played in cinemas was the censored PG-13 version, because
Oh, right, yes.
the version that is most commonly found on home video these days is the R-rated director's cut.
Yes. I got the Laserdisc and it had like director's cut on it. I thought, whoa, wow, excellent! Wow, it's got like 5 minutes more footage. It's like great.
All the Malebolges dancing.
It's got more burning in it. Oh, that's literally.
That's exactly what we needed to fix this film.
Michael Jai White stars as a chicken nugget.
True.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, that was kind of my early kind of disastrous experience at the cinema. But also the following year we had another stinker, but I'll mention that one later.
Yeah. Ooh. What's your number 5?
I'm going to start with the earliest really bad time I can remember having at the cinema. And it was kind of punishment, I think, from the gods. Because a new multi-screen cinema had opened in Norwich, like a really big one. And I worked out, if I go in the right time, can I just sneak into another screening for free and watch? Ooh. And I could. And the film I got to sort of see for free was Mission to Mars. And I never did that again. That was my punishment.
Is that the Brian De Palma one?
I can't
Yes,
even
yes, it is. Brian De Palma directed it. Tim Robbins and Gary Sinise.
Brian De Palma directed it. Was he off his face on cold medicine? What? Mind you, I've seen Sisters, but I mean, crikey, that's wow. That's I didn't realise that at the time.
Yeah.
But it's just top-line sci-fi nothingy gubbins. It's just so stupid.
It was part of a little phase of Mars movies around that time because there was also Red Planet with Val Kilmer and Tom Sizemore, which I have seen.
I get them confused, those two movies.
Yeah, I've seen Red Planet. That was pretty bad. I mean, I didn't see that in the cinema, but obviously. I haven't seen Mission to Mars all the way through, but I've occasionally stumbled onto it on TV, and I've seen Tim Robbins' infamous death scene where he takes off the helmet.
Hello, beautiful. Oh, is it Gary Sinise?
Gary Sinise, yeah.
He's the one who survives to the end, and the magic sugar cube aliens make everything better, or something. I can't even remember.
Because there is a great documentary on Brian De Palma where he just sits down and talks about all his films. And I think Mission to Mars was one of those movies where he just needed a hit. So he had to choose. He chose something that was kind of out of his wheelhouse, basically. So that's what Mission Impossible kind of was. We needed a hit, and he had a massive hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mission to Mars was kind of another thing where following on where he hadn't really had. I mean, I think he had experience with visual effects, but not to this extent. So that was just a huge nightmare for him, I think.
So much of it is so stupid. The guy out of Sliders, I think it is like some sort of...
Oh, Jerry O'Connell.
That's the man. Yes, exactly. At one stage, they're like in... Zero gravity or something. He gets a load of Skittles and makes them rotate roughly in the shape of a DNA rib and says, "That's the DNA of my perfect woman." What the fuck? You think DNA is that simple? You can make it out of 23 fucking Skittles? I mean,
That's not how a perfect woman works.
I mean, it's just... before we even get into that part of it, it's just so absolute rubbish. It really
She has the genetically great form. Too bad about the personality.
but only about 30 genomes on it, so she's just basically a lump of potatoy flesh or something.
I can really taste the rainbow when I kiss her.
I do wonder if that was product placement, thinking back now.
Yeah, that is probably very likely product placement. Yeah. So my number 5, I've chosen the same tack as you, really, because I had a bit of a deliberation. There are several films that I was kind of umming and ahhing over at my number 5, just in terms of sheer bad movie experiences. So the two that kind of got knocked off my list was a very recent one, Surviving Christmas with the Relatives.
I never saw that.
Yeah, that was the Christmas fast from the writer of Fatal Attraction, and it was horrible, and it was amplified by the fact that I was seeing it at an empty cinema on a Monday in December.
Oh my God.
So that is a horrible, listless movie, but there was another movie, I think the closest I've ever come to really, like, walking out of a movie, and it still didn't make this list, was Kill Your Friends, the Nicholas Hoult movie, which is an adaptation of a book that is basically American Psycho in the record industry set in the 90s, which I just found insufferably smug. When I say that it begins with a scene where James Corden gets pissed on, that probably gives you an idea of the tone of that
I'm sold,
movie.
personally. But,
that should be a great meme, shouldn't it? Getting pissed on.
But no, my number 5, actually, is The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, because I remember that's the first time I went and saw a movie and I really, really hated it.
That was 98 or something?
No, that was 2000.
2000.
Actually, I think it came out in 2001 in the UK.
Right.
Because I remember seeing the trailer for it in front of The Grinch and thinking, oh, this looks really good in my innocent young naivete. You have to understand that I was 10 when this movie came out. So, I am the target audience. But, of course, being from the UK, I don't really know Rocky and Bullwinkle very well. I have had people come up and defend it saying, well, actually, it's very like Rocky and Bullwinkle. it was still pretty painful as an experience. I mean, I think that was the first time that people had to consider the fact that maybe Robert De Niro wasn't doing great projects all the time.
Yeah, I remember he was also doing the voiceover, wasn't he?
He didn't do the voiceover for segments for the
animated segments. Live action element then?
Yeah, he played the live action version of the characters, because the Adventures of Requiem and Bullwinkle
makes no sense.
The plot of it is the characters come out of the real world using the internet or something like that.
It's trying to be like Roger Rabbit in some way.
Yes, it was trying to be like Roger Rabbit. So the Rocky and Bullwinkle were animated characters, but the antagonists, they came out as live action characters. So Robert De Niro played Fearless Leader. You had Rani Russo and Jason Alexander, filled with cameos in that movie. John Goodman, Whoopi Goldberg, Keenan and Kel turn up in that movie, which shows you
your guarantee of quality.
There's of course that horrible moment in that movie where Robert De Niro spins around on the chair going, "Are you talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here, so you must be talking to me." I mean, little did we know this, Dirty Grandpa was in this picture.
As an aside, my dad tried to watch Dirty Grandpa recently, not knowing what it was. He got about 20 minutes in. I don't know what this is.
Did he get up to the scene where Robert De Niro is wanking off and Zac Efron walks in on him?
What? Oh, God.
I don't know. He didn't mention it, but then again, he probably wouldn't.
That is one of the earliest scenes in the movie. And the first time we see De Niro, he's grieving at his wife's funeral, and then Zac Efron goes to pick him up, and he walks in on him wanking to the television, and it's... Oh, God.
Such bad taste, isn't it?
Well, that whole movie, you kind of know what you're getting in for with that one.
Yeah, I suppose so, but I mean, it's just a fall from grace for him, isn't it? To do that.
Isn't it just? Bloody hell.
One of the most respected actors ever. He just does this shite.
I think Rocky and Bullwinkle, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was actually the second Rocky and Bullwinkle movie. I think the first one focused on the characters that Jason Alexander and Rene Russo played, but they didn't have the rights to Rocky and Bullwinkle. What? So they just focused on the villains. It went as badly as you would expect.
That's insane. I mean, you just wouldn't make it, would you? What?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
I can't remember the name of it now, but I will splice in the box art of it.
If I remember, in Rocky and Bullwinkle, don't Rocky and Bullwinkle stay as cartoons, but the villains all become real people?
Yes, they're
Is that explained?
No, not really. I presume it's because it's cheaper to do it that way, because they were like 3D but sort of 2D cell characters.
Bloody hell.
Well, next one on the list, I suppose, number 4 this would be, for me, Men in Black 2.
Ooh.
See, that was... Because also, we all know the first one was great hit. Most people really enjoyed that film. Nice 90-minute movie that sort of whips along really quickly. Great jokes, great visual effects. And Will Smith, at the height of his popularity. Then come the sequel, I think, which was 3 or 4 years later, maybe less than that, maybe. I was working at the time for Game, a sort of video game shop. And then we'd always sort of go out on a bender on Friday, Saturday night. Then the following day, we'd be completely blitzed and hungover and go watch a film. And Men in Black 2 was the one that everyone was kind of raving about, so to speak, because all the hype machine had already kicked in on that film. And I hadn't bothered to look at the reviews. I think I maybe heard word of mouth that it wasn't quite as good, but that's that's the thing you come to expect with sequels. Went into it, and it was one of the dullest films I'd ever seen. The first one had this kind of energy to it with the camera work. There's lots of tracking shots, everything like that. It felt alive, where this one felt so stilted and just locked off cameras, where they shot so much green screen stuff.
Men in Black 2, I remember, because I reviewed that ages and ages ago. I did. That's probably one of my first real tastes of disappointment as well when I was a kid, because I was about 11 and I remember really hating it.
Yeah.
I remember really taking a dislike to it. It's a very short movie as well. It's something like 80 odd minutes, and that's partly because they had a short in front of it, an animated short, which was probably a bit of a suspicion there.
I don't recall that in the UK.
Yeah,
maybe
they did because it was a really short running time, so they were trying to make it look a bit more legit.
It did feel short. The whole thing, obviously, with any film you watch, where it's it doesn't matter if it's 90 minutes or 80 minutes. If it's insanely boring, it will feel twice as long.
Absolutely.
That's why I think Quantum of Solace feels like a really long movie. It was 90 minutes, one of the shortest. Well, it's the same runtime as one of the older Bond films. Will Smith is trying his best with the material, but everyone just seems so kind of phoning in everything because they're just so bored with it. No one's in love with the script. It's one of those, Sony needs a sequel, have all this money. I remember it being a very, very expensive movie.
Yeah.
Probably down to so much control over the visual effects, where everything we don't know, we're not going to do this live action, we're going to do it in green screen, so we control all this effects and stuff. And it's overloaded with CGI, which isn't particularly brilliant.
No, no, it's not. And the thing with Men in Black 2, I remember being disappointed about it. I think at least one critic got it kind of right in that the dynamic was kind of gone from the first movie. When they tried to reverse it in that Tommy Lee Jones is sort of inexperienced. You gotta go find the deneuralizer. We have to go back to all the jokes from the first movie. Yeah. It is always the sequel trap. It's always, we have to do a flip on the first joke. So Tony Shalhoub is back as Jeeves. You got Frank the Pug, who's more in the movie and more annoying than ever.
So having to sit through this terrible film and being hungover made it an awful experience.
What doesn't help Men in Black 2 is they had to reshoot a huge chunk of it.
I'm surprised.
Because this was in 2002. You might recall there was a very significant event in 2001.
Right.
Apparently the original climax of the movie was set on the top of the World Trade Center, because you remember the climax of Men in Black 2, it's set on top of a building that's facing the Statue of Liberty.
Yes.
Which of course goes into that stupid Deus Ex Machina Statue of Liberty neuralizer gag.
Yeah.
But apparently the original climax of the movie was set on top of the World Trade Center. I heard that there was going to be spaceships popping out of it. Like it was going to be a big sequence, and they had to obviously eliminate it entirely and reshoot it. You'll notice during the movie that Johnny Knoxville, the two-headed bad guy, he just disappears out of the movie at some point because they couldn't get him back for the reshoot.
Oh, God.
And one thing I did notice when I was editing it as well, from the way that they've restructured the movie, watch carefully if you ever go back to it. There's a scene where all the villains are standing in a line in the MIB headquarters after they've taken it over. And I discovered this when I was editing my episode. Watch the last shot of one scene, and then about half an hour later, that same scene picks up. They literally just spliced it down the middle, stuck a bunch of scenes in the middle of it, and called it two.
My God.
And literally picked up in the same spot.
And it's got a cameo of Michael Jackson in it.
Yes, it does.
It was desperate to be in that film, I think, really.
Oh, I think the gag that I hated most in it is the bit where they're flying around in the car, and suddenly a fucking PlayStation controller comes out.
Yes.
Because of course Sony made the movie and its awful product placement.
Well, it was good that they actually left a huge gap for, over a decade to do a third one. And the third one was a good film.
I was amazed the third one came out as well as it did, because they actually shut down production on the third one because they were having so many problems with the time travel element of the script.
Oh, wow.
Yes, apparently it was not even like... You know how they colour the rewrite pages? It was like getting into triple orange and triple red.
I didn't like Men in Black 3 much, actually, but it's definitely a massive improvement.
It's far more digestible kind of experience than number 2.
It was just... I felt exactly the same. Saw it at the cinema. It's just like a flat remake. It's like they'd remade it for a foreign market or something. Yet somehow used the same language. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything sort of lower down. It's kind of the same villain, but not. And
could you say Men in Black was kind of lightning in a bottle?
Yes,
the first one
to a
was,
certain extent.
And it's such an interesting idea that could be pursued with sequels, but they obviously did, but inherently kind of didn't actually work as successfully as the first one.
We're on the cusp of Men in Black International, aren't we?
Yes, the fourth one.
Nobody seems to know much about that, but
with Chris Hemsworth and Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson.
I guarantee we'll just have the same kind of plot as the first one, and just be like bigger and better.
It looks like it might be a little bit different from the others, which might. I know F. Gary Gray's directing it, so it's the first one not directed by Barry Sonnenfeld.
Who's a great cameraman, isn't he?
So, what's your number 4?
Right, my number 4 is going to be that classic we have discussed at length in the past. I don't remember if we did it publicly or not, probably not. Premonition, starring the mighty Sandra Bullock, from her picking really bad scripts phase.
Is that the late 90s sort of phase?
No, this is 2007, 2006.
Oh, really? Yeah. Sorry, I thought it might be something like Close to the Net, that film.
Oh my God, the net.
Internet, the movie.
I'm doing a hacking.
So for those of you who don't remember Premonition, including Oliver...
Including everyone, I imagine.
This will be the one where...
I was the projections at the time, so it must have
where
come my way.
Sandra Bullock plays a woman who wakes up one morning and she discovers that she's skipped ahead several days.
Wait a minute.
Her husband has died, and then she wakes up the next morning, and then she's in the morning after the original morning. So she's skipping back and forth across the week, and then she has to figure out all the events that are occurring that are leading up to her husband's death, and she has to avert it in some way.
The husband is the guy guy from Nip Tuck who
Julian
was the Doctor Doom in the awful
Fantastic Four.
I don't know why I said the awful ones. They were the better ones. They're still pretty bad, but I mean, God. Oh dear, yeah. It's just nothing. It just doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't say anything, and you get to the end and like, oh well, nothing really mad anyway. But the twist of the end shot is she's pregnant. So,
Okay,
what's that got to do with anything?
I saw
This hasn't been anything about pregnancy or baby.
Don't you see it coming?
What?
I saw Premonition when it came out on DVD, and I remember.
Sorry to hear that.
I remember it got really knotted in its time travel mechanics. So one of Sandra Bullock's daughters in that film, she wakes up one morning and suddenly her face is all completely scarred up, like really horribly scarred.
She slept funny or something.
Yeah, just really sharp.
And it's supposed to be a mystery. Like, how did this happen? How did this occur? And then the movie shows the event that happens where she accidentally ran into a glass door.
What?
Yeah.
But the problem is, the day that occurred, we'd already seen the day after where she wasn't scarred. So
Oh, for God's sake.
The whole thing, man, I can remember almost none of it. And that's...
Was there a
testament
point
to how
halfway
bad it
into the
was.
film, Stuart, we just went, this is absolute shit?
Yes, it really was. In fact, that came quite early, if I remember, and it just sort of got compounded.
Just look at the watch time. Oh, my God.
The ending is bullshit at the highest order. So she figures out the event. So she figures out that Julian McMahon is having an affair or about to have an affair, and she tracks him down onto the road where he's going to die, and she stops it. But then the twist is, it turns out that she was the one who inadvertently caused it.
Oh no!
On the road, and then the gas tanker starts skidding, crashes into the car, crushes him, and then explodes. So it turns out the whole movie was fucking pointless.
Yeah. So it's like,
that's great.
That's the end of that. Yeah.
So my number 4, and I'm surprised I actually forgot about this. You might have seen me scrolling through my phone for a second there because I was trying to jog my memory. My number 4 is actually a very memorable cinema trip. 50 Shades of Black, the Marlon Wayans spoof of 50
it's like
Shades of
date
Grey.
movie, disaster movie, that kind of pedigree.
Well, those were Salzburg films.
White chicks, didn't they?
Yeah, Wayne's did the haunted.
God.
Wayne's did the haunted house movies, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So 50 Shades of Black is an utterly dreadful parody of the first 50 Shades of Grey. But what if it had really awful, degrading sex jokes in it?
Right. Well,
like really horrible sexist stuff. Like, oh man, your vagina really stinks. There's loads of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, real top quality humour. Writers in a room for days coming up with that one. Yeah.
I'm not even joking. Like, there's a whole scene where they talk about at length, sort of pubic smells and really disgusting.
It's very,
stuff.
very sort of childish kind of humour.
So I think the joke is meant to be, what if Christian Grey was black? And apparently Wayne's thought on that is you can see that in the opening sequence. Even though he's supposed to be a millionaire, he mugs people on the street and things like that and steals people's cars. Like, what? This is if it wasn't written by a black guy, this would be kind of considered racist, Like, this is
Pretty severely, to be honest. That's like, if a rich man was black, he'd just steal things all the time because he's black, and that's the joke.
Yes. What?
What?
They had done one good spoof, I think, years back. Was don't be a menace to South Central or drinking juice in the hood.
That was
That was Keenan Ivory Wayne's, not Marlon Wayne's, unfortunately.
It's one of the brothers.
He's got to keep his other brother out of it. Lock the door, keep him out of it.
I remember 50 Shades of Black having terrible continuity, which is a strange thing to say in a spoof movie, but if you have a whole sequence where someone has an arse that doesn't feel anything, like Marlon Wayne's fucking hits a chair over her back and she doesn't feel it. Over her arse even, she doesn't feel it. And then later on they do the spanking scene from 50 Shades of Grey and she's like, I can't take this anymore. What? You forgot what?
But Matthew, you knew the film was terrible.
Yeah, I knew.
Why did you go see it?
Okay, so I was at MagFest. I saw this in America, and me and Rap Critic were like, well, we don't have time to write a script for anything, but we can kind of do a video together. So we got loads of people from MagFest together, and you can see that video on my channel if you wanted to. And we all went to see it at an EMC theatre. So we had a family in front of us, because of course this is America. Get a family into an R-rated movie.
Oh yeah, you can do. Yeah.
Even though it has loads of sex talk in it. Like, one of the kids was really young, and what was really disconcerting is they occasionally in front of us, because they remembered lines from the trailer, would quote the lines as the movie was happening. And for a second we were like, have they seen this movie before? Or do they just keep going back?
They've gone back to see it. Yeah, it's funny how these sort of weird comedies keep being produced because the people watching these films, they are making a profit. I think it's like Adam Sandler movies,
This
isn't
is the last one they've made because this one got such a negative reception. But then the people behind us, so there was an audience behind us. Halfway through the movie, security comes in, kicks them all out.
What for?
I think they like snuck into the theatre.
Oh right, I thought they were getting like a bit hanky panky. But
one of the other people in our group goes, "Bring out your tickets." They're checking tickets. I'm like, what the fuck? Am I going to get arrested in the middle of a movie theatre for watching 50 Shades of Black?
That's the most embarrassing arrest in history. My God.
oh dear.
Oh man, so that was memorable. Anyway, moving on to number 3.
Number 3, for me, is Alien vs Predator: Requiem.
Oh,
I've never
seen the second one.
I have never seen either because I like Alien and Predator, and I don't want this in my life.
Because I was obviously working as a projectionist for a number of years, from 2004 to 2011. So I got to see quite a few number of movies. I was very picky about what I chose, but when a movie like Alien vs Predator comes in, you kind of know it's going to be a bit shit because the first one was dire. So, but I was quite excited to see it because I thought maybe they've listened to feedback and changed it maybe in some way. So I previewed it, and previewing films at cinema was always quite an interesting kind of option. But the majority of the time when you work at cinema, anyone watching, it's always the managers have to decide if they're going to stay on. If they don't live nearby, they won't stay on, so you won't preview it after work. No one's going to go, I've got to go home, I've got to drive 2 hours. So I watched it, and the whole film you can't see a bloody thing because the photography is so bad, like the cinematography. So
it's so dark.
It's so dark. The daytime scenes, obviously you can see, but when it comes to the aliens, they made an attempt to actually use a lot of practical stuff, but because they lit it in such a way, you can't fucking see it.
It's directed by effects people as well.
Yeah, you see it on 35mm film at the time, and a massive screen. I couldn't see it. Like there's a sequence in the sewer where these homeless people were sort of living there, and these facehuggers come in, and this alien comes down the corner. They shot it in a way it was actually quite like Ridley Scott, where you got like the side of the wall and the alien's head comes down the side. It's all done like quick editing. You can't barely see a thing, and the characters are awful because it's all done the human characters are all like teenagers who are a bunch of dicks, like a comedy kind of rom-com kind of thing. The Predator's actually quite good, where he's called like the Wolf or Lone Wolf.
Yeah, they based him off Harvey Keitel's character from Pulp Fiction.
Yes, he just turns up and cleans up the
So he's advertising things the whole time.
Yeah, direct line. So he turns up to clean stuff up, and causes some damage and some interesting action scenes when you can see them, but. As a fan of the franchise, just sat there watching a bike with about 4 people on this ginormous screen. It was one of the most disappointing experience of this sort of, out of the whole franchise, because even though AVP 1 was not a very good film, it had kind of little nuggets of that's okay, it's not that bad. But this was just like the next step up. Yeah. Because it was such insulting and tonally off. And and there's a woman, sorry to interrupt you, there's a woman who's pregnant and she gets impregnated by the pred alien, and then the aliens go in her stomach and they burst out of her stomach and they've eaten the baby inside, and it's awful bad taste. It was just
it's because it was R-rated, wasn't it? It's because it was a response to the PG-13 rating of the first one, and it has that stupid title where they were clearly searching for an R word.
Well, it had been used before for a long time. So they could just have
AVPR as the acronym.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I just remember hearing reports of it being very, very gratuitously gory and violent just for the sake of it. Like, it's literally just kill scenes, and that's it.
Yeah. They should be violent, these movies. Yeah. They should be toned down for children, but seeing a pregnant woman get impregnated by a pred alien, it's just like, you've gone too far. Yeah.
It goes way past it, really.
Yeah.
And they have characters named after others. Don't they quote they quote several lines.
They quote. I think there may be stuff
Get
like
to the chopper.
Get to the chopper, things like that.
New kit from orbit. Doesn't Miss Yutani turn up at the end of it?
That's right. You're trying to connect the universe, as it were. Yeah.
Oh my God,
wasn't good.
Isn't there somebody checking? Yeah, guys, when we're filming this, can we make it so you can see it? Is that okay? is that something we can do?
It must have been the grading in the print when they did it.
They had a behind the scenes clip. I think it's up on YouTube on the guys that did the effects for it, and they're shooting a scene, and you can see the DP like with a flashlight going, "It's not bright enough. It's not bright enough. It's not fucking bright enough."
It's like, fuck it, we'll do it later. We fix it in post.
CGI everything. Get the guided spawn in, it'll be great. Yeah.
Exactly.
What's your number 3?
Deary me. Right, for number 3, I'm going to pick one I hinted at earlier, Fant 4 Stick.
Oh,
fantastic for the the thing that exists, unfortunately. So, I mean, I went in knowing it was going to be shit, but I was blown away by just how dull and insipid and stupid the whole thing is.
Listen to Doctor Doom here.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to Doctor Doom here. It's just it's unbelievable that it was. I mean, it's supposedly, Trank had a vision for it. Josh Trank, the Trank sounds like a transformer, but it's like the director, and there's a lot of production interference and all this kind of stuff. But what he's ended up with is so awful, and some of it is tonally so horrible.
Yeah,
you infamously, your tweet became famous for mentioning it.
Yes, it did. Because I saw this as well. I saw this as a Cineworld Unlimited screening. I was amazed they ever showed this to an audience before its official release. Amazed, like 2 days before it came out. So I was one of the first people who'd actually seen it.
Yeah.
And I remember when I came out of the movie, I did an absolute tweet storm of all the sort of stupid, memorable lines. And of course, the one tweet that became infamous was The Thing got his catchphrase, "It's clobbering time," from his abusive brother. Because that happens in the movie. They're kids, and his brother comes up and goes, "It's clobbering time," and slaps the shit out of him.
Yeah,
God.
And I remember going, I've got
kids, guys.
I've got to keep this in my mind for later, because oh boy, Twitter's going to explode, and boy did it! Like that tweet went everywhere.
I remember there being this like. You watching it, you felt that so much footage was missing. It wasn't this like subtly things were trimmed, but it was just so obvious, like something that's been cut heavily. Like the bit where they've got the powers and suddenly they escape. And it's months later. Like what?
Just chunks of it have just disappeared.
It takes forever to get going. It takes 45 minutes before they actually get their powers, and then it seems like the movie's on fast forward. And then I remember going, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay. I kind of need a pee, and then I realised, oh, this is the ending of the movie.
The end. It has the most stupid fucking ending of any movie I can think of that isn't like some, zero budget thing from the 80s, or specifically Pieces.
Someone grabs the testicles.
That's how Pieces ends, everyone. So
spoilers.
Yes, ruined that one for you. So at the end of the film, it's not a spoiler for a superhero film to say the good guys win, but they're speaking to like the US government. And the US government like, right, we don't trust you guys because you're all weird and
you're all bendy.
You're bendy. You're invisible. You're a lump of fucking rock. I don't know what's going on here. So instead, Reed Richards' character says, I think you'll find you'll be giving us billions for research and have our own facility. And they're like, well, no, we're not. That's ridiculous. Why would we do that? And the Thing just goes, like that. He goes, all right then. You can't threaten a fucking government by going up to a representative and going, grrr.
I forgot that happened.
They've got an army. They've got to sign these things off. It isn't just some bloke in a uniform. All right, I have $20 billion a week then. You can't sign that off.
They reshot half the bloody movie, because I think Trank's vision of it was much darker. You can kind of see some of that in the original.
It's like the body horror element.
Like there's a lot of kind of Cronenberg stuff.
Totally so off from Fantastic Four.
That's not Fantastic Four, is it? Not really.
It's pop colour candy. Like the ones prior. But they were just a bit shit. They weren't.
And of course, the thing we have to mention is the fact they reshot half the movie, and of course, who was it? Sue Storm, the actress that plays her, Kate Mara.
The wig.
Yeah, the wigs.
I'd forgotten the wig. Yes. Because she'd had a total haircut by this stage. This awful wig on.
Yeah,
man, it's painful how. I mean, I'm sure Trank's vision would have been too dark and probably not that great, but at least it would have been something
like a
fully
vision.
formed. Exactly. Yeah.
So my number 3 is Nativity 3. Dude, where's my donkey?
Oh God, is that number 4?
No, that's number 3 of the series. Because of course they now are up to number 4, which I didn't actually see in the cinema. I managed to get a lucky escape out of that one, but. So number 3 in the series is the one with Martin Clunes in it, and he gets kicked in the head by a donkey and he gets amnesia. And so that kind of ruins the mechanic of the series in the first place, because of course you got the stubborn teacher next to the childlike Mr. Poppy, which is a nightmare of a character. He is a character that has the mentality of roughly around a 6-year-old. Kill me now.
How do these people qualify? I didn't wonder that.
Mr. Poppy actually seems to get worse by film, and I remember by the third film they actually mentioned that his character is borderline illiterate.
Oh my god!
But he's still a qualified teacher somehow.
No, I think there was some like stupid setup in the previous films where he's like the nephew of the headmistress played by Pam Ferris, but she's not in the third one anymore. She's been replaced by Celia Imrie, so she fires him. So technically, he's not even like an official school employee, and yet he abducts all the children. Like he keeps, keeps abducting all the children. Like in the second film, which I thought was really the second film was really dreadful. He abducts a load of children to go to a singing competition. Really, he should have gone to jail after all that.
So he abducts them twice then, the second and the third one?
Yes, because he flies them all he manages to fly them all to America using like con artists, like
using cardboard wings he made himself.
Oh god!
He steals someone else's tickets. Like that's not how that works. There's passport control and everything. But this is one of the most technically inept movies I've ever seen.
Are these only made for the UK market? And UK theatrical distribution.
Much. So part of this film is set in New York. Martin Cluse's fiancée is Catherine Tate. She's supposedly staying in a hotel in the middle of New York City. This has some of the worst location matching I have ever seen because they clearly shot Catherine Tate's scenes in a country hotel in England. So you have scenes with massive windows where you can see hills in the background, and then it will cut to them walking outside and they're in the middle of New York City.
They should have shot it in Milton Keynes.
At the very end of the movie, they're supposedly on the Empire State Building, and it's literally just a set with like a backdrop put up against it, and they've superimposed it on a photo.
That's a wank. Oh god.
The continuity is so bad that there's a flash mob competition going on at night in London, and they're cutting to the kids in school watching it in Leeds at the same... No, Coventry. I'm saying Coventry. Got to be really precise with this movie. People are going to be picking that out in the comments.
All the Nativity 3-pack fans will come out the woodwork.
So they're watching it in the school in Coventry, even though it's supposedly 8 o'clock at night, and it's daytime out the window, so it's cutting like time. What? So I couldn't believe that was actually released, and yet it's still not on the top spots.
Right, my number 2 is Transformers 2. Revenge of the Fallen. Now, I quite like the first film. Some people hate the film, you know. I like the first one. I did review it, and but so the hype was kind of there for the sequel. I grew up with Transformers, but any sort of kind of in the background it was. I was more Thundercats and He-Man. But by the time, well, you know, when it was like 89, when I was getting into those things, those shows had already been on TV. These are repeats, a second repeat, you know. And you couldn't really buy... I never saw Transformers in the shops anymore by kind of early 90s, I think.
No, I grew up in the 90s and I didn't really get into Transformers at all.
No, so come seeing the film, I wasn't expecting, like, you know, Generation 1, everything. I wasn't an expert in all that. So I kind of enjoyed it for what it was. But come number 2, it was... I mean, everyone's seen Transformers 2. Maybe not Stuart.
So, a quick story here. I apparently went to the cinema to see Transformers 2 with a friend. Right. Totally forgot about it because I was talking to him years later and said, I've never seen any of those bloody Transformers films. And I was saying, well, we went to the cinema. You did a video on it, if I remember. I'm like, what? And I had totally forgotten every single aspect of the film and not even seen it. All I can remember when really concentrating is just a lot of flashing lights and noise.
Yes.
Basically like a fever headache.
Yeah. So come see number 2. The trailers weren't that bad. Obviously, I was working as a projectionist. The film was, you know, as everyone's seen it, it's a load of old shite. It's totally all over the place. There's production problems. I think there was a writer's strike. But also sort of how it's edited and how the action set pieces are done. They're all just like every explosion in a Michael Bay film looks like a firework. It's not like a proper like John Woo sort of meaty big fireball, you know. But by the end of the movie, what really fucking annoyed me is that people applauded.
That it was over?
No, they were loving this movie. End credits come up with the fucking cheesy rock music, and people were cheering, clapping. I mean, the British are very sort of reserved.
Yeah, it's very rare to see that.
Or sort of just go, but people proper cheering. And I was fuming. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I cannot believe this.
And it's so biased towards the fans, so I can sort of understand it, because it deliberately does the Optimus death to try and, like, wrangle the tears from the long-term
Prime
fans.
just comes in every film. All the Michael Bay films, for the last 5 minutes, it goes, cleans everything up, and it ends. It's just like,
Deus Ex Primina.
it's like, you watch like an action film, and at the end where he saved the person, there's no kind of roundup of things. Just go, credits coming straight away. That's what Michael Bay films.
Optimus does a narration and then the credits roll.
The films are so long, but when it comes to the very end, it just goes, they just clean up the mess, they get the hoover it up, whatever, then end credits straight away.
Yeah, the Fallen is barely a villain in the movie, and he gets killed in about 2 minutes.
And he gets his face like pulled apart. If it was like
Tony Todd voiced him, and it's a complete waste of Tony Todd.
Yeah, they pulls his face apart. It's all quite graphic for like it's like robot parts, but I mean, the intent is there.
They're still feeling pain and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Optimus Prime in the Transformers films, the Bay ones, he seems to be more Judge Dredd. Like, give me your face. Optimus, no.
I'm gonna have sex with you, Megatron.
That one I would watch.
Who knows? But yeah, so that was a bit. I mean, I watched number 3 as well. I mean, 3 wasn't as bad, but it was just
But it was longer.
Come on, so long. But yeah, number 2.
I saw Transformers 2 in the cinema, and I gave
You
it.
reviewed that very early on, didn't you? Your career.
I did a text review of it, and I was a bit.
What, teletext?
No, in my early childhood days where I used to do like sort of text reviews, and I think I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, and boy, did that review not go down very well. And that was a day where I wasn't really paying attention to the movie. I had a terrible day, so I was just sort of, well, whatever. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be, I guess. And then,
It's so bad, I give it 4 out of 5.
and of course, I went back later, and I was like, my God, how did I allow this to stand? And then I did the video about it.
Has there been experiences for you guys where you've gone to see a movie and you've kind of like, oh, it's all right, then a week later it's gone, actually, that was absolutely terrible?
Yeah, I think I did that with A Good Day to Die Hard, because I was such a fan of that franchise. I was trying to convince myself that it was any kind of good, and then I was like, no. And Prometheus, I think is the archetypal one for most people. I was like, no, there must be something that I'm missing here. There must be something that I'm missing here. Oh, no, I'm not missing anything. It's actually getting worse. Oh, no.
When me and my friend saw Street Fighter, the movie, I spoke to my friend Harper, and goes, yeah, it wasn't that bad, was it? He's like, yeah. And a week later he goes, Ollie, that film was terrible. What was I thinking? I think there was a review of it in like Sega magazine or Mean Machines or whatever. Some guy said, this could be the best film ever made or one of the worst films ever made. I can't decide. Oh, that was
You'd
wonderful.
think they were mutually exclusive. Just mention quickly, the one I got caught up in at the time would have been probably Star Trek Into Darkness, where everything's happening so fast, you're watching, you're like, ooh. Yeah. And then, but like 2 minutes after you're at the cinema, you're like, that was just utter dimbo shit, wasn't it? There's just like none of that made nothing, no motivation made any sense to it. It really was just, here's a load of images.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Same, I think. So what was your number 2?
My number 2 is, right, just to head off any comments, we will say, we're not saying these are the worst films of all time. These are just particularly ones we disliked that we personally saw in the cinema. It is The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies.
Oh,
the Five Armies.
Really? Oh,
it was fucking hell. I mean, I don't know why I went to say I didn't like the first one much. The second one is awful. And somehow the third one manages to drill below the bottom of the barrel. And it's just...
I quite like it. Well, I like the extended cut, not the theatrical.
I haven't seen the extended. I wish I hadn't seen the
cut makes
standard
sense.
cut. I don't know why I went to see it. I knew it wasn't going to be great. But I thought, oh, maybe it'll, there'll be a big fight. It'll be all right. But it's just... What is going on? Nothing in this holds together. I don't give a shit about any of the characters. Bilbo apparently disappeared at the end of the first film as a character, and then they just bring him back at the end. Oh, well done on your journey, except we ignored you for most of the film because it was all about the sexy dwarves. And like all the dwarves,
like chips.
Chips. They really lost sight of those movies. I think, like when they made the decision to stretch out into 3 movies instead of 2. Yeah, it really kind of lost any kind of idea of what they were doing, and it's filled with padding. I mean, I think I gave it a fairly lukewarm review, but I think that was only because I was feeling generous because it was the shortest one, and because I hated the first Hobbit movie the most because it takes forever to get started.
It's incredibly dull. Yes,
no, it takes forever.
I can't agree with you guys, but I love them. I love the extended ones. I can 8-hour cut.
I don't know if I can ever rewatch the Hobbit movies.
I'm just going to face this direction for the rest of the video.
Well, not just because they're incredibly long. I mean, it's a bit of a hard decision to make to watch Lord of the Rings again.
Sense, those movies are inherently too long.
Yeah.
But if you're watching them at home in the comfort of your own thing, the length doesn't particularly bother me because that's part of my Christmas viewing is the Tolkien movies. Yeah. So I have to alternate between my girlfriend's choice of Harry Potter movies and then Lord of the Rings. So you have to sort of do those.
I have a bit of I think I'll just have a hard time watching the Hobbit movies again after watching Lindsay Ellis's videos on them, because of course she did a 3-part series on them. She went out to New Zealand and talked with some of the people that worked on the movies, and apparently they got really screwed over in New Zealand, like not because the studio interfered with sort of the politics going into like the funding,
the labour laws and things like that.
like labour laws, and I think the scale the actors were paid at, because when they changed it to 3 movies, I think there's a lot of sort of behind the scenes.
I did it because Peter Jackson was owed money as well from the studios because of the profit on those films. But
it just feels a bit queasy to me. But in general, I just think the Hobbit movies, they don't recapture the magic of Lord of the Rings. They don't work as standalones. They're real messes.
Wasn't it supposed to be Guillermo del Toro?
Yes, it was.
Jackson had to come in at the 11th hour and there wasn't enough time to actually do everything.
I would have loved to have seen what he did with it, because he would have been so much better. I'd
like to see what Jackson had done with it if they'd have given him enough time and just 2 films.
Jackson's still an amazing director, I think. The amount of work that goes into those films and the amount of time he spent on those. It goes from like very big guy, and you see King Kong was all stressed out, he goes all frail and skinny. He barely slept, But I'd be interesting to see what Del Toro would have done with that. Guillermo del Toro,
My number 2 is Top Cat, the movie.
The most respectable.
Yes.
Is this the Brazilian-made one?
Yes, this is because they made 2 of those. Both of those got theatrical releases, but I only saw the first one because I was reviewing that one. I think I nearly reviewed the second one. I have seen the second one. The second one is a 3D animation. Well, technically both of them are, but Top Cat, the movie, the first one, is that horrible one where they got really nasty 3D animation for the backdrops and everything, but the characters are all sort of 2D flash animation. So you've got horrible moments in the movie where the scaling, like the interaction between them is off. I remember one shot where a character's sliding down like a whole bunch of money, but the money's in 3D, but the character's in 2D, and it just is so wonky and wobbly.
It'd be like cardboard cutouts, wouldn't it?
And it is literally in 3D, so it was quite awful.
When did this come out?
This 2012. So I think the American version has a different dub. I think Danny Trejo's in it because he's in everything, but in the UK version he's not in it. But I remember the voice acting being terrible. The plot makes no sense. I know this seems like a weird thing to say in a Top Cat movie, but so
he's really strong narrative and drama.
Where are the layers of allegory?
So Top Cat gets sent to prison in the movie, but because the regular prison is full, he's sent to dog jail.
Oh,
what?
Matthew, why did you watch this?
Because I was reviewing it.
Dog jail?
My poor uni friend sat next to me, and we're the only 2 in the. No, because there was a mother and some kids, and she's like spending the whole movie gritting her teeth, scrolling through her phone, that sort of thing. And me and my friend sort of sat next to each other, slumping in our seats slowly as this is unfolding. It is also one of the few kids' movies I can think of that ends in an implied rape joke.
Oh God!
Because
the kids love that.
The villain of the film, he gets the situation that Top Cat is. He instead of getting sent to regular prison, he's sent to dog jail, and I think one of the dogs goes, "I'm going to make you my bitch," or something. I don't think they say it like that.
Oh God!
But it's
some sort of dogging sort of gag or something.
And this is for kids, ostensibly for children.
And I think I remember there was like some sort of plot with killer robots. It's awful. The sequel is Top Cat Reborn.
There was a sequel.
Yeah, that one's fully 3D animated, and
Resurrection.
I think it's. If I remember, it was slightly better than the first one. I had the same dubbing team, if I remember, but there was one moment where I was, and I can't believe it passed a huge certificate movie. So at the very end of the movie, when he defeats the villain, he goes, that line I said was really cheesy. Hey, Mr. Big, fuck you! And they bleep out the line like bleep, bah, 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 and it comes up with a huge censored thing, but you could, it's barely censored, so you could tell he was like, fuck you!
It's basically cut off when he says the F word, basically.
No, it's like intermittent bleeping.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, how did that pass in a used certificate movie?
God.
How did that end up in a kids' movie in general?
Was that the sequel you said?
The first Top Cat movie, because that's the one I saw in cinemas.
The second one wasn't released in cinemas.
It was released, but very briefly, and I saw that on sort of Amazon or whatever.
It's in your collection, isn't it?
No, it's
Mathew? Yeah.
Private, its own special shelf with little spotlights.
Hi guys, look, it's a collection from Poundland. I've got it.
Here we go. The number one pick.
The number one pick is Godzilla from 1998. That summer was a miserable summer. I remember it being very rainy and grey throughout the entire summer season, which is very odd. One of those years where things were just like global warming or something. I don't know. So Godzilla, massive movie, hyped, throughout what 6 months. They'd shot specific trailers as well with the foot coming through the museum.
Yeah,
this is going to be amazing. It looks like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's bigger than Jurassic Park was the big selling point, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like Godzilla roar. You'd actually see Godzilla at all. You see his foot. Was that Godzilla's foot? Doesn't really look like a foot. It's like a giant raptor, but never mind. So we all went to see it. I think it was when I was 15. Went during the day, and the weather was also miserable. And you go sit there for a film where the whole film it's raining the entire film. First thing is the plot was rubbish. The effects were pretty good actually. I didn't mind the effects, but it was so dark and damp. Mathew Broderick trying to be funny. He's not an action man lead person. I don't know why they cast him. Roland Emmerich, this is the first sort of dud I think they'd made where people just went, this film is shit. Independence Day is kind of it's generally a good film. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure, but the format was beginning to repeat itself where they had these characters that were all the same. They just swapped their sort of names around. That's a new film.
I like Jean Reno in it. Jean Reno is the only interesting character in the movie, and he's sort of not really in it until halfway through.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of Mathew Broderick, who's like, oh, I'm Mathew Broderick.
Yeah, that's the whole joke. No, that's a lot of fish.
The topless.
Yeah. Oh God. And then, because Godzilla didn't look nothing like Godzilla, the early sort of designs of it looked actually quite in keeping with the classic one. I think Stan Winston had done some designs, whatever. But yeah, it was such a weird experience. And then you see this whole film where it's all dark and raining, and you walk out during the summer and it's pissing it down all day. Just it doesn't help with the experience. No. You had an awful film, you had awful weather, you had outside, it was shit. Yeah, so that was kind of a rubbish film of 98. And it was, I think also, as I mentioned earlier with discussion to Spawn, there was so many summer movies coming out for 97, 98 that were all mostly shit. They were all duds, so much hype, and they never delivered. And there's always, I think most of the quirky movies that came out that everyone kind of missed that were actually good.
I will tell you, this is a slightly embarrassing story. So I saw Godzilla in cinemas, and I was
must have been
7.
7, yeah.
So I was 7 when it came out. I cried at the end of it because I felt really sorry for Godzilla, because he gets a horrible death scene at the end of it. He gets tangled up in the bridge, and they fire upon him with the missiles. And I found myself sympathising more with the lizard monster tearing through the city.
The third act becomes a rip-off of Jurassic Park
in Madison Square Garden, with the Godzilla babies.
It's basically raptors, weren't they?
Reproduces asexually.
Oh yeah, it was such a cock up. I think
I've never seen it, and I'm so glad.
You've got to see it.
No.
For the punishment.
The new one's coming out, isn't it? So
that one looks good. That one is. I mean, the last Godzilla movie,
that had the opposite problem of too many human characters.
Rubbish human characters, apart from Bryan Cranston, but everything else about it, like the photography, the effects, and the tone was brilliant, but everything, it was such a bit of a letdown where Godzilla was attacking, but it's on TV. It's not actually
doing that, didn't they? The fight's about to start anyway. Move the camera away.
They literally cut away in the middle of action sequences. What are you doing?
But the sequel looks wonderful.
Your number one.
My number one will be Unsane.
Oh,
recent horror thriller.
Unsane in the Membrane.
Unsane in the Brain.
This is the Steven Soderbergh movie.
It was yes. Again, off his face on cold medicine. So it's all filmed on iPhones, which works surprisingly well.
Yeah, it's actually in 4:3 format.
Yeah.
I think one of my friends saw this recently. So I didn't quite mind it.
I'd kill them. It's the kindest thing for all considered.
Bit strong.
this is a film I get angry just thinking about. So it's like...
Is this theatrical?
Oh,
release?
yeah. Absolutely went to see it.
I saw this at an unlimited screen. I didn't think it was as bad, but it is very much a case of it falls apart very quickly.
And my God, does it fall apart. So it starts off as quite a sort of an interesting thriller, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly goes, oh, do you know what, fuck this. Actually, like, the antagonist has super strength and he can fucking fly or something.
So the premise of the movie is that Claire Foy plays a woman who had a stalker played by Joshua Leonard of the Blair Witch Project, and she thinks that he may be following her again, and so I think she goes to a psychiatric institution and she ends up being institutionalized against her will. And so you think the movie's going to be this sort of psychological horror, especially because one of the orderlies is her stalker and she's convinced that it is, and then it turns out it's not actually psychological. It is him, and there's some ridiculous stuff where it's like he's killed an orderly and no one's realised that he's swapped around.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's the worst run psychiatric institute in history, and I don't think it's meant to be an intentional commentary. He's just running around the place.
How can I describe how angry this makes me? This is the sort of theory of it. It's kind of... dangerously stupid because it portrays a psychiatric institution, a modern psychiatric institution, as like something out of the 1950s with sort of early 70s treatment methods from sociopaths. People are scared of psychiatric institutions anyway. People do not want to go in them even if they need to. And so making a fucking film on wide release where it's like, oh, psychiatric institute, oh, they're run by maniacs and they'll cut your legs off and then they swap each other's heads around and like, fuck, what? No, this does not happen.
Someone gets dragged off and killed and they don't find his body until several days later.
Yeah, nobody notices.
Claire Foy gets locked in like a padded cell for days on end and no one knows or even checks.
It's so irresponsible in its portrayal of the mental health service. It's absolutely despicable.
Did you see this on the strength of Steven Soderbergh as a director?
No, it's purely one of the things. This looks like quite interesting thriller, like this kind of stuff. You know, or is it real? Is it not?
The trailer's a bit
halfway through, it's all real.
The trailer's a big fib.
The trailer's a lie. The trailer makes it look like a psychological horror when actually it's more of it actually emerges more of like a slasher flick than anything.
Yeah. And it's awful.
Watch it anyway, just to sort of...
irresponsibly, dangerously awful. Everyone involved should have their knees broken.
And my number one pick...
Yes, Matthew, what is it?
Keith Lemon, the film.
Oh, God.
That is also on my list, but as, I didn't mention because I knew...
That's an easy pick, that is.
Yeah, but...
It's an easy one, but it doesn't make it any less true.
It's true, yeah.
So this was the... part of the post-In-Betweeners movie success where everyone and their mother was getting TV to film adaptations. The Harry Hill movie was pretty bad, but not on the same level as Keith Lemon, because Keith Lemon, the film, is actively scuzzy and unpleasant. I have never seen so many walkouts in my life as I went to see Keith Lemon, the film.
There were no walkouts when I went in, but we were the only people in there.
I saw it on opening weekend. People walked out at roughly around the 20-minute mark.
Is that bad into it, though?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So I think the scene that tipped most people over the edge is... so the story of the film, in case you're not familiar, so Keith Lemon is a character created by Lee Francis, and he fronts a game show called Celebrity Juice and numerous other ITV projects. All of the people that he's friends with pop up in the film, but he plays an inventor. He creates the Lemon Phone, which is like a modern smartphone, but it has a lemon on the back of it. I guess that's the joke.
That's the joke.
So he's an inventor, but he hasn't invented it yet, and he goes to London Bridge, I think, and he starts fantasizing about his girlfriend and just starts wanking himself off on the bridge. Oh, God. Like, it goes on for seemingly ages, and then afterwards he goes into an underpass and he gets beaten up by some people, and then he gets knocked out, but then you get no relief from Keith Lemon because it's a dream sequence for Keith Lemon. No. And then Lee Francis plays another character called Evil Steve, so he's got a dual role in the movie. The late, great Vern Troyer pops up, playing the sort of guardian angel.
Kelly Brook, isn't it?
Kelly Brook appears in it,
and is dreadful. Really bad.
There's a really horrible scene in that movie, and there are numerous horrible scenes in that movie. There's a scene in it where Keith Lemon just basically describes the plot of First Blood. Like, just 3 minutes of him just going through the plot of First Blood, and the joke is that he's doing a slow impression of...
For about 3 minutes?
Yeah. which is soon swiftly followed up by the worst scene in the movie, where he gets so aroused by Kelly Brook that he has a huge orgasm all over himself. You know, like they apparently just spent loads on Muller yogurts and just.
I mean, it's funny because I've never found the character of Keith Lemon. I quite like Bo Selector. I thought it was quite funny. I thought it was really good.
They got the Bo Selector characters in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The first thing that happens in the film
I've only seen little bits of this in the Keith Lemon movie. Is that on ITV4 or whatever?
The Blu-ray was in Poundland.
Yeah. The first thing that happens...
Extended cut.
Literally, the first thing in the movie is sex noises, and it's like a dream sequence fantasy where he's having sex with someone, and then Craig David, you know, his impression of Craig David turns up in it, and you go, wow, that was relevant in 2003. And then his impression of Mel B turns up, because some of the Spice Girls have cameos in the movie.
Yeah. That's the best Bo Selector character.
Yeah, so that turns up in it as well, and I go, wow, this is really scraping the barrel early, and just, it's so embarrassing.
There's one thing I liked about the film, and that's that none of the other characters seem to actually like Keith Lemon, and that I quite enjoyed.
How do you even define Keith Lemon as a character? Ever since that film, I find myself
He's a
scratching my head.
walking knob gag.
Like, what is the character of Keith Lemon? How would...
Yeah, that's why I never sort of gravitated towards that thing.
Celebrity obsessed?
Yeah, that was it. That was the character in Bo Selector. He was obsessed with celebrities, and they kind of made this. Yeah. I think.
And then I think he's kind of lost the point. And then he made that awful Back to the Future retrospective documentary where they kept hyping up they were interviewing Michael J. Fox, and they didn't have Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, I don't know why he stuck with that character, because I made
the most money, I suppose.
Yeah.
In Keith Lemon the film, there are 3 times I smiled. This is over 90 minutes in a comedy film, right? But I'm going to tell you the joke, so you at home don't go and watch it. 1, there is a bus that says it's going to Leeds, but they've written it as to Leeds.
Yes.
T-apostrophe-L Leeds.
That was the one. That was the one time I smirked in the movie.
Yeah, to get it. 1 point, Vern Troyer does a really good double take quickly. That was quite smiley. Yeah, that's how low the sort of threshold was.
Was there any fart gags in it?
Probably. Can't remember.
I'll get smoke from it.
Yeah. And Evil Steve has his own deliberately shit theme tune where somebody sings Evil Steve, Evil Steve. When he's on, thinking that was vaguely amusing. That's it. That's it for 90 minutes.
You have literally made a better movie for probably less money than
just made Evil Steve.
I'll be honest, it wasn't hard. Yes. Yeah. Oh dear.
There you go.
So that is our picks. I hope you've enjoyed it. And where can people find you folks?
Just Google Ashens. One word, like Madonna.
Mathew's been on my channel before. His followers know who I am. Let's put in Oliver Harper into YouTube. They know who Ashens is. Ashen.
Well, until next time, fading out. Thank you for listening to the Film Brain podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Just a reminder that if you want to support my work, be it podcasts or YouTube videos, please go to my Patreon at patreon.com/filmbrain, where you can experience those episodes early, among other perks. And just a quick shout out to my Patreons, Tim Poppleton, Sofox, Inigo Almandos, Tim Tark, G Viral, Robert Murray, Henry Jacob, Manuel Jonan, Marley Berrickmans, Joshua Bowden. And remember, if you have any feedback about the show over social media, please use the hashtag FilmBrainPodcast.